Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob, and today we'll be jumping into some malicious compliance. Our first story today comes to us from ISAP Irias. Sure, we can reschedule that class. Let's jump right in. So this is a fun bit of malicious compliance that shows why I love my new job. After being on the receiving end of more accidents than I like, I switched careers to working as a driver's ed teacher. I'm fairly easygoing, but there is one aspect of any job I have that is a bottom line. My time is my time. If I'm off the clock for any reason, then I don't work. So if your class is scheduled for 5:45 and you show up at 5:30 when I start my break, I'm not going to do anything. Most parents understand that after the hell of kids that don't understand not stopping on train tracks, that you go counterclockwise through roundabouts. Seriously, he jumped the curb to turn the wrong direction through it. And one panic-inducing moment where a student nearly went the wrong way down a highway, rural area, so no on and off ramps, just a road that crosses it. I need my breaks to de-stress. If they show up early and I say I'm on break, they nod and wait, most of the time. Very seldom we get people that feel they have a right to demand I start a class early. This is one of those. First, it should be noted I don't have a uniform or badge, so aside from my rooftopper on the training car, nothing says I work for the driving school. I had just settled down in my own car and was about to bite into my sub. Two of my past students work at Subway and will discount my meals, when a woman knocks on my window. I open my door and step out, food still in hand. The following occurs, and the cast is self-explanatory. Are you Isa? We wanted to start his class early. I'm sorry, I'm on lunch right now. His lesson starts in 30 minutes. Well, we need to start earlier. He needs to be home early for dinner so he can't be out that late. I'm sorry, but when you scheduled the class, the schedule was fixed so that I can have the necessary break and lunch times. Well, then reschedule this class and have your stupid lunch later. Miss, it's my lunch break. I'm not being paid for this time, and I need to be on the clock and scheduled to teach under state law. Not really, but sometimes saying it's a legal requirement slows the entitlement train. I don't care. Teach him now. Oh, wow. That's a bright light bulb over my head. Let's play with this. Okay, I can reschedule today's class. Just let me call the office and get that arranged for you. I grab my phone and dial the admin I deal with most of the time. Kat is great. She will let me know when parents and students cancel. She clears my schedule when I need to take the car in for maintenance. And she doesn't like her teachers being bossed around by customers. After all, they need us more than we need them. Just to make it easier, I put the phone on speaker. Hi Kat, Joe's mom Karen is here and wants to reschedule his lesson today. When does she want to move it to? I want him to start right now. So yeah, I was thinking just cancel the 4:30 to 6:30 class and give me another at 4:10. Why the F is this taking so long? You're sure you want to do this, ma'am? Yes, you idiot. Please stop shouting. My phone is on speaker. She can hear you perfectly fine. Okay, I've canceled the original class and rescheduled it to start in 2 minutes. We'll note this in your records. Please remember there is a $50 fee for canceling within 24 hours. Have a good day. And she hung up, while I tried not to grin, as Karen realized she'd just been charged double the cost of a lesson to have it start 20 minutes early. And if she doesn't pay, then we can withhold the certificate her son needs to take his driver's test. For his part, the kid is actually pretty good. One of those students where we are mainly just going through the motions of driver's ed to appease the almighty BMV, DMV, and he's glad he gets to spend a couple hours every few days driving without having to listen to his mother nagging him. I get really nervous when I'm not the person driving the car that I'm in, whether it's my parents who have been driving for 60 years or my wife that's been driving for, well, not 60 years. It's a little scary. Absolutely couldn't imagine what these driver trainers go through. Nothing but respect for them and what they do. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our second story today comes to us from BearJC. Customer had a reservation for the 4th floor at a 3-floor hotel, so I took her to the roof. Let's jump right in. Several years ago, I worked front desk at a privately owned hotel, non-chain, that had been a Days Inn 5 years prior. The only way to book a reservation was to talk to the front desk staff. No online reservations, no third-party reservations. About 50% of our rooms were sold to walk-ins. One holiday weekend, we are booked full. Our elderly elevator is having some trouble with all the traffic and spooking guests, so I close it and call for a repairman, but it's 10 o'clock at night, so I'm not expecting anybody until the next morning. All of our guests are checked in. Our accessibility rooms are on the same floor as the lobby, so I'll just help out anyone with their luggage if they have more and put up a sign saying so. In walks a woman I don't recognize from check-in. She plops a piece of paper in front of me and then goes and gets a lot of luggage. The paper shows her with a reservation at Days Inn at this address for tonight for a tenth the price we were selling before being fully booked. She comes back to the desk, likely thinking that I have been checking her in all this time. I regret to inform you that we do not accept third-party reservations. We are unfortunately already booked for the night. I have a reservation. It's right there. I paid good money for it. Ma'am, I believe you. Unfortunately, you are not in our system because we don't take third-party reservations. They sold it to you fraudulently. You were just trying to steal my money. I have a confirmation number right there. I handed it to you. Yes, ma'am. You handed me a reservation to a Days Inn. We are hotel named, gesturing to a sign. All of the signage inside and outside the building is correct. Also, this is for a 4th floor room. We only have 3 floors. I stayed at this Days Inn last year on the 4th floor. This argument continues for a while, with me keeping my cool, informing her that we are booked. All of our rooms are full, me insisting that we don't have a 4th floor, not Days Inn, don't take third-party reservations, etc. Eventually, she screams at me that I'm going to take her to her room on the 4th floor that she paid for right now. I don't respond, just stare at her with a blank face until she slaps the desk and screams, "Now!" again. I don't mind making a room key, but I do grab my huge key ring and we both load ourselves up with her excessive luggage and climb the stairs. Once we get to the 3rd floor, I gesture to the 3rd floor sign and tell her it is the 3rd floor. I then use my maintenance key to unlock the door to the maintenance stairs, which are not lit, and she trudges up behind me not saying anything. I open the door to the tarred roof and walk outside. And here is the 4th floor. I hope it is as nice as the last time you stayed here. I drop her luggage and go down the stairs back to the front desk. Honestly, had she been nicer to me, I would have tried to help her get a room at a different hotel and submit documentation to try and get her a refund or chargeback from the third party, but since she screamed at me, I left her and her luggage on the roof. Plus, she insisted she had stayed on the 4th floor, so that's what she got. OP mentioned in a comment that there was a door at the bottom of the stairs where the person could go straight outside instead of coming by the front desk again, and they didn't see them again, so assume that's the way they went out. OP got lucky that Karen didn't come by the front desk again, but as I've said in many videos before, it's really nice when the trash takes itself out. Also, get bent, Karen. Our next story today comes to us from Care Bear 177. Kick out the tenant, then ask him to showcase the place? Let's jump right in. Mid-2010s, I was on a hunt for a place while crashing on a friend's couch. I was checking out a place for 40% of monthly minimum wage, and having arrived at the agreed upon time, found an obese middle-aged lady telling an agitated nephew that he can't freeload in his room anymore. So I talked to her, and always the marketer offered to do some free digital marketing tips, basic stuff that people just ignore before checking out the rooms. It never hurts to offer something valuable and low cost for free before negotiations. I found an amazing room that made me feel like a vampire count with thick ornate columns, high ceilings, velvet drapes, with the only light coming from the glass wall on one side that casted my silhouette towards the entrance and kept my face obscure sitting behind the desk. But I should scope out the place, right? So the landlord tells me she has bad knees and asks the nephew she just kicked out to show me around and upstairs, specifically to the room that just freed up, his. What? That's not wise. Not surprisingly, he showed me the place flippantly, occasionally bad-mouthing it, and let me know that there's rats. Okay, nope. I said my thanks, left the lying landlord. That should have been the end of it. 2 days later, the landlord calls me in the middle of work and asks if I made a decision on the room and if I could show her the digital marketing tricks, to which I gave her the benefit of the doubt and refused sternly. That should have been the end of it. Yet she kept on calling. Even when I blocked her, she found other numbers to call from over the next 2 weeks. One day, I was in a foul mood, so I finally agreed, if only to get her out of my life. Except, she then directs me to the nephew she's kicking out as soon as his room is rented, because she's not good with tech. What? That's not wise, but meh, it's what she wanted. It turns out the freeloading nephew was a natural, and he managed to rank landlord's apartment on the top 10 search results, complete with dead rats, dangerous fire escapes, fire hazards, and all. The landlord was found in violation of numerous codes, and I now had a capable and admiring digital marketer who eventually helped me get employed after COVID layoffs. So she kicked out her nephew and expected a good review? I mean, come on. I'm glad OP was able to see the good in the nephew though, and it sounds with the two of them working together, they're gonna make it pretty far. Our next story comes to us from mcchickenhead. You told me I don't work for the company, so I guess I won't help you. Let's jump right in. This will be a short one for you guys. If this isn't malicious compliance enough, then let me know. I work for an insurance company, not gonna mention who, handling day-to-day customer service. I call a customer, call him clown, because his homeowner's insurance was past due. He proceeds to give me attitude because he moved out of state and sold that home 4 months prior. He also has a personal umbrella policy for my state that he never got transferred over to his new state. Because I am only licensed in one state, I told him I cannot transfer his policy over and he needs to call the agency in his new state. Clown then decides to say, I wish I could talk to someone that actually works for a company name. I told him I do in fact work directly for the company, to which he replied, but you don't work for them, do you? Or else you would be able to handle this. I explained to him and his 3 brain cells that agents can only ever do business in their licensed states, and for him to call his new office and sort out the issue with the umbrella policy. After I get him off the phone, I proceed to cancel his home policy because it is in a state that I am licensed for. We are allowed to request from underwriting to cancel past 30 days, but it affects our agency's performance rating. Don't ask me why. When it's the customer's fault, we have to backdate that far. So I cancel his policy back only 30 days, despite the fact he sold the home 4 months prior, because F him. He calls back a couple weeks later. He found out we didn't cancel the policy back the whole 4 months and demands he is refunded for that time. I cut him off and say, you told me I don't work for company name, why would you call me for help? He got even more pissed, going off on me all while I sat back and smiled. Once this guy finally stopped to take a breath, I chimed in, this sounds like a company name problem, so maybe you should call them, and I hung up. He never called back, so I assume he called our corporate number. Moral of the story, don't treat customer service like crap and accuse them of not working for their company, then try to beg them for help. Yeah, OP, I'd say that fits into malicious compliance. You let the customer F themselves over, which it seems like they're pretty good at doing in the first place. Our last story today comes to us from Happy Scattered Reader. Don't send emails outside of work? Sure, let's jump right in. Backstory. Some of our field agents in my company were taken off the road on full pay during COVID, but expected to be available for retraining, etc. in anticipation of a return to work. At the beginning of last month, I started scheduling training for agents to return to the field. Pre-COVID, these agents worked a 11 to 7 shift, and I usually worked business hours. There were times I'd be around from 7 a.m. or doing something at 9 in the evening though, and generally would respond to an email if I felt it warranted one at the time. During COVID and retraining, agents were asked to be available during business hours instead for these trainings and not their usual shift. Everyone seemed happy enough to do this upon request. One agent, who can be a serial complainer at the best of times, started whining that he was getting emails outside of his work times, 9 or 10 a.m. instead of 11 a.m. Now, I usually send invites to training, etc., or handouts whenever I get a free second, which could be at 8 a.m. or 8 p.m., depending on if I'm tied up in training sessions or meetings. No agent is obligated to check and or respond to anything outside of their work hours. However, it's more so it's in their inbox when they log on. A Teams invite went out about 9 a.m. for a training exercise 2 days later, as I wanted to keep scheduling ahead of myself and give the guys as much notice as I could. Serial complainer went to HR and said he has a right to disconnect. HR explained that he was under no obligation to read or reply to any of these emails, as his shift was 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Remember, the shift is actually 11 a.m., but all agents were happy to work a different schedule during training and finish at 5 p.m. instead. HR requested that this agent not receive emails outside of their contracted hours due to their complaint and right to disconnect. I said, sure, no problem. Cue malicious compliance. I sent an email out at 9 p.m. 2 days later with some new information about some of the products that were due to be added the next day. This had only come via the client about an hour before. Agents were all now back to the 11 a.m. shift, and I wanted to have the information as soon as possible, as I had annual leave booked for the next day. I had left serial complainer out as per his request and had scheduled his email to send at 11 a.m. Serial complainer then sent an email to me after receiving the email, whining that he hadn't been given adequate notice of the new information. My out of office was on, as I was on annual leave. Serial complainer then called my work mobile and left a voicemail asking me to run through the product set with him. I didn't have my work phone on, as, annual leave. I was then sent another email from him where he stated he was not informed of the products the same time as his colleagues and was being put at a disadvantage and being discriminated against, and complained that I was unavailable to explain what he needed to know, which was unacceptable. I saw this email the next day after I returned from annual leave, and I replied at 11 a.m. stating that I am not obliged to respond to emails outside of my work hours under the right to disconnect, and CC'd HR. I then emailed HR separately and brought up that serial complainer was suffering from a case of the old double standards. Everyone but serial complainer receives emails outside of work hours now, and every time serial complainer sends one outside of someone else's work hours, they don't respond until their shift starts. We all have. I may send this email at a time that is of convenience to me. Please note you are not obliged to respond outside of work hours. Serial complainer is not happy, but rules are rules. One commenter summed this up perfectly. It says, the right to disconnect means exactly that. He has the right not to look at the email which is accumulating in his inbox. He has the right not to have a response expected from him until his shift starts. That in no way means he has a right to not have emails arrive. How would he even know if he were disconnected? Thanks to all 5 OPs. Check them out at the links in the description down below. Thanks for watching, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.